Announcing a fabulous sale on the Commodore Plus 4 personal computer, the first computer with 4 built-in software packages, the big 4 every computer owner needs. Built-in graphics and sound commands, 128 colors, 64K memory, 75 commands, word processing for letters, reports, create graphics, graphs, charts, full color designs, balance checkbooks, business statements, income tax, file management for mailing lists, inventories, recipes. Retailers originally sold the Commodore Plus 4 for $299.95. Now it's yours for only $99.95 complete. Will include $150 in discount coupons towards special options. Use your credit card and order the incredible Commodore Plus 4, the $99.95 computer package you've been waiting for.
Use your credit card for rush delivery by calling 1-800-441-1234 or send check or money order for $99.95 plus $10 shipping and handling to Commodore Plus 4.
Well, hello everyone and welcome back to the RGDS podcast. I'm your host Kingy and we are returning to the 8-bit underdogs episode. You know, we do them every so often. We pick a very much lesser spoken about 8-bit computers. So we're not talking about the Spectrums or the Commodore 64s. We're talking about the lesser owned systems. Probably the systems that we laughed at our friends in the playground because their parents, although they thought they made an informed choice, maybe not so much, but no, that's taking the mickey a little bit too far. If you owned an 8-bit computer back in the 80s, it was special to yourself, right? Doesn't matter if it's an Acorn Electron, a BBC Micro, ZX Spectrum, a Commodore 64, or Dragon 32, or an Auric, or anything like that. The point is, it took you to new worlds, exciting places where you had an experience, you had a computer at home. And I always loved visiting friends with different computers because it would be boring if we all owned the same bloody thing, wouldn't it? I mean, that's good. You're sharing Spectrum games, as I was a Spectrum fan. If you were Commodore owners, you would go to other mates that also had Commodores and played each other's games. But I especially liked it when someone owned a different system and you went to their house and I asked them to show me the best of what they've got. Come on, it's now your chance to shine. So this is the whole point in this continuing series, is to shine a light on the lesser spoken about 8-bit home micros. So for this episode, it is the Commodore Plus 4 or the Commodore 16, and we'll get more into that why we're choosing both, because it is ultimately the same architecture, plays most of the same games, so we'll get into that in a little bit. Equally, on this particular topic, we like to bring friends of the show in who owned the systems back in the day. Clearly, I couldn't own everything. I've got experience playing many of these systems, but if it's to be from the heart and get more insider information, you've got to bring friends in. So I am delighted I have two of our wonderful listeners and Discord friends, people I've had many a pint over and many a fight on Moon Patrol over. Let me introduce that bugger first, and it is Turnbl. How are you doing, mate? Welcome to the RGDS podcast.
Hey, Kingy. Yeah, I'm doing well, thank you. Hopefully you can't hear the downpour too much at the moment on your end.
This is a nature podcast, actually, folks. If I haven't been able to completely eliminate the sound of it, poor Turnbl, his man caves in the conservatory, and where he is now, it's pissing it down, and there's nothing we can do about that. We just got to record. And you've heard his voice before, way back, ages and ages and ages ago on the Tomb Raider episode, and it's Oblisky. Welcome back, good sir.
Hi, and thanks for having me back. I'm looking forward to talking about the Plus 4, which is a very dear home computer to me.
Excellent. So we'll just get right on to business, because I think this is going to be a very long episode. There's no point in doing a Paul Driscoll preamble about how many games he's bought on the Switch 2 or anything like that. You know, we'll just put the listeners to sleep if we had that on top of everything we've got to say about this wonderful home system. So let me do a little introduction to the system itself. So in the mid-80s, Commodore released a family of computers called the 264 series. So included in this was the Plus 4, the Commodore 16, and the very, very, very much lesser known Commodore 116. Now, we're not going to cover that one. That pretty much only the Germans like that. We don't speak about the Germans, so to be honest, it wasn't really popular. It didn't sell very well, but we'll cover the two systems which we were more used to in the UK where we reside. And these computers were aimed at a different slice of the market. So the Commodore 16 was pitched towards the beginners and families looking for a low-cost way into home computing. Well, the Plus 4 was meant to appeal to small businesses and more serious users with its inbuilt productivity software. So it kind of had precursor to the whole Office suite that we're used to today with a word processor and such like as well. Clearly that was going to be a lot more expensive then. They looked completely different from one another. The Plus 4 came with a sort of larger, sleeker case with extra keys and that iconic arrow key down the bottom right. It was quite smart. Commodore 16 more followed suit of all the other Commodore range things. You recognise a Commodore design machine with this had a black shell with its full keyboard, so that was really good. Just incidentally, the Commodore 116 was probably the most compact of the three with a Commodore had a rubber keyboard, people. Listen to this now. Commodore saw the importance of rubber keyboards, the very thing they take the piss off, use Commodore boys. It did have that. But anyway, we're not covering that, but we just thought I'd mention that. The trouble with these systems is they never quite reached the popularity of the aforementioned Commodore 64 and the VIC-20, which the Commodore 16 is more, in line with. But they carved out a unique corner, I would say, in computer history, and they're remembered today for their charm, their quirks, and ultimately the role they played in Commodore's ambitious push to shove and get a computer into every home. So, gentlemen, anything you'd like to add to that? I'm going to go to you first, Turnbl.
Yeah, I just want to give my own sort of background to the Commodore Plus 4. So I want to take you back to 1985, Kingy, a much simpler time. I was 9 years old. Main things to do back then, TV, BMX, football if you liked it, books if you didn't. What else? Building dens. And shooting people with your arms as machine guns was obviously popular then as well. It was a pretty simple time. So I think I had about £1 a week pocket money, and I know you're going to say that sounds like a lot, but I do live in the south, so that's what the rate was. That's what the rate was down here. I was the only child as well, so makes a difference. But my parents were working class; they did their best, bless them. So I did a little bit of research actually. So for my £1 a week pocket money, we'd go into Westgate House in Peterborough every Saturday morning, and I'd have my £1 to spend. And these are the sort of things at the time that you could get in 1985. So you could get Whizzer and Chips or Eagle or Roy the Rovers, 22p. That was your comic. Spider-Man comic, 25p. Match Football magazine, 40p. So we're sort of going up the money charts now. Matchbox car was 85p. So I could buy a Matchbox car pretty much every week if I wanted to.
Yeah.
And that's what I'd normally do most weeks. Zap or Commodore user magazines, they were at £1. Star Wars action figure was £1.69. I think Action Force were about the same at the same time as well. And going up a bit further in price, you had Fighting Fantasy books. They were £1.95. I am going somewhere with this, by the way, Kingy. So, small Lego, small Lego vehicle, £2.25. So, you get your police car or breakdown vehicle or whatever.
Yeah.
Subutio team, £2.75. So I'd have to save up quite a few weeks for that. And then you get right at the top, you get your Matchbox Super King cars, £2.99. And then the very sort of posh fantasy adventure quest books. There was one called Helm Quest, I remember. It was $2.99. So that was pretty much it as a kid back in the mid-'80s. And I didn't have a computer at the time. And this is where this is going. So in 1985, so Christmas, we had a BBC in the school classroom. So I'd had some sort of exposure to a bit of computing. But what had happened was the price for the Plus 4 had obviously come down quite a bit over the previous year to 18 months. And it was down at $99.99 for retail price in the shops. And I was lucky enough that my parents got me one that Christmas in 85. And that's sort of where my computing journey began. And the reason I mentioned all those prices is because all I knew at the time were these $1.99 budget games. So I was able to get a budget game every sort of 3 or 4 weeks. And it was then, after I got this computer, it's just a different world for me compared to before.
Amazing. And, well, okay, if we're talking about how we came across it then, I'll go very briefly and then on to you, Oblisky, because I'm sure you have more to say than me. Just like I alluded to in the intro there, I just had friends that owned these, so I was excited, going to someone that's got something different for me, and let's show me what this can do. Please prove to me this is a go-to system. And I don't think I've ever been disappointed in going to anyone's houses and playing games and going, well, that's crapper than mine. You wouldn't go to someone's house and that's not the same as the playground banter that you can just have a bit of a laugh. You're going into their place of solitude, if you want, and they're showing you games they love playing. I'm excited about that. It's not just about me getting enjoyment out of the system. It's watching them explain to me why they like X, Y, and Z. And so I had a couple of school chums that owned these, so like of many of the systems, that I was excited and happy to go around on occasion. And normally you're invited up to their house and their mum will make tea for you, so you get some food to eat as well and meet the parents and, meet their hot sister, say hello, I'm just playing your brother's games, But no, I just thought it was absolutely exciting to see even similar games. Perhaps I owned it on the Spectrum or even played it on the Commodore 64. It was a wonderful time to see variants on a game, and we've discussed that in many a podcast where, unlike today, it's all homogenized, where you play it in the PlayStation or the Xbox or even the PC. Call of Duty looks like Call of Duty, give or take a few frame rates. That's pretty much it. But then you could have had a completely different game, not just something that visually looked different. It's different development teams, premises could be different, whatever, So, no, it was an exciting time, and I had great fun playing these. And more on that, when we're actually discussing the games. So over to you, Oblisky. How did you get into it? Was it in what year, etc.?
Well, I think in 1985, I wouldn't have even been reading Beano at that point. I was only 5. And I do remember as having one of the iterations of the grandstand in the house. And I can remember playing it once, and then it went away. And then every other time we got it out, it never really seemed to work. But I actually got my Plus 4 Christmas 1987, so I'd be 7. And the thing I can remember about that Christmas morning, we used to go down, and over on the one chair over to the left, there'd be my sister's presents, and on the other chair to the right, there'd be mine. And you work your way through the presents, and you're opening them, and they've put the better ones at the bottom, so they're the good ones at the end. And we get to the bottom, everybody's happy, and then I can't remember what the next bit was, but ultimately I ended up with this Commodore Plus 4, and I remember it being in a black bag. So, and in my head, it came from behind.
Did they run it in wrapping paper that was in a black bag?
Well, I don't know. In my head, it came from behind the chair, and something must have been said that was like, oh, check behind the chair, something like that. Santa's maybe left something behind the chair. And in my head, it was in a black bag. So whether as I was opening my presents, my mum and dad were looking at each other like, "Did you wrap it? No, did you wrap it?" but anyway, I ended up with this Commodore Plus 4, and so I suspect that my dad would have probably brought it from somebody at work, especially like with you said earlier, the Plus 4 had the development tools or the word processing tools. I don't think they would have made that decision based on knowing that's what it could do. Mm-hmm. So, and then in researching this on the Plus 4 world, I have seen now a picture of the box that it came in, which clearly I never had. So that adds to that idea, but that matters not. That was my first home computer. But I also remember that day saying, "Oh yeah, can we set it up? Can we set it up? Oh no, your grandparents will be down soon, and then you'll have their presents to open." So that, and then time moves on, and can we set it up now? Oh, it's dinner soon, and then Star Wars is on, and so no idea at what point I actually got to play it, but it was well received when I finally did.
Oh wow, that's a good story. It doesn't matter, even if something was second hand at that time or whatever. There was not a lot of money going back round at that time, and plus you had other presents or you had siblings. So Christmas, we all know this as parents now. We're all parents now. You know what Christmas time's like now. It's like, bloody hell. Start saving from January for the following Christmas just to get everything bought that your children want, we wouldn't dare get anything second hand for Christmas for them, would we? Or anything like that now. Yeah, all great stories, gents. That's really, that's the whole point, isn't it? Is our parents made these decisions for us at this point.
And that's the thing, Kingy. When I came down that Christmas morning, we had no technical knowledge in the household at all. So we spent the next hour. My dad was sat back in the other room because he didn't care at all. He wasn't technical, didn't worry about it. So it's my mum helping me trying to set up this computer on the main TV in the living room. We sat on the carpet, and obviously the instructions I've read through them today. They're relatively simple and well laid out. But for somebody who's never done anything like this before, attach the power cable, attach the cassette drive, type these words in, press return. Mm-hmm. What's the return button? It's different times. But yeah, we managed to get it running during that morning.
Oh, well done. No, exactly the same for my own Spectrum back in the day. And, the ear, the mic, the commands, everything getting into the TV. That's the thing. How many devices were you used to even plugging into your television? You maybe didn't even have a video player at that point.
Not back then. We didn't know.
Yeah, exactly. So the whole tuning concept, you were used to tuning TV channels in, but then tuning this in RF, another thing altogether. So, no, that's the whole thing about the whole push from these companies at that time was to get technology in the homes and get people IT literate. And lo and behold, look where we sit in our own jobs today. If it wasn't for these systems, would we be doing the jobs we're doing? Very much doubtful, Apart from Oblisky, we like electrocuting people, but that's...
providing the electric so you can play them.
Exactly. It all is related. So let's look at some of the specifications, because listeners who aren't familiar with the systems may go, what was the difference between the Plus 4 and the Commodore 16? Well, not really much in a nutshell. So you've got this lovely outer shell, the keyboard systems and the case is completely different. So, we'll provide links to the photographs or whatever of them. But it's Gubbins internals were more, interested in. So, like we said, the Commodore 16 was the budget one. The Commodore Plus 4 is the rich man's one, but it dropped in price very rapidly as well because it wasn't that successful. So just because it retailed at £299 back in 1985 didn't mean to say Turnbl and Oblisky's parents were going to spend that kind of money on such a system, because that's eye-watering even at that point. They both declined in prices quite rapidly. So the main difference between them is the memory. Commodore 16, 16 kilobytes of RAM. Commodore Plus 4, 64. And that's the trouble. It's like, whoa, woman, that's the same as the Commodore 64. Version of Basic's the same, it's 3.5, so that's a more advanced one than the Commodore 64, more revised. But internally, the graphics and sound is an integrated chip. It's called a TED chip. And the resolutions are 320 by 200, 121 colours, and what's the luminance? That's different brightnesses of the colour in these systems. I think you amended the notes on that, Turnbl.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's 8 different shades of colour for each colour, and it takes you up to 121.
That's cool.
In effect, it almost to me looked more like the Amstrad style of, quite a bright, colourful machine compared to the C64. So that was a difference. The sound chip obviously didn't have the SID chip. So that was sort of a slight downgrade there. But then also the TED chip, if used well, it was a bit better at drawing 3D graphics. So there was this sort of weird situation where they brought it into the market. They tried to sell it with these sort of 4 productivity pieces of software built into it. And then it ended up being really cheap pretty quickly. And then for the Plus 4 specifically, not too many games got released over the sort of the time it was alive for. So it's a very kind of odd, nobody wanted it style computer. And it didn't really know where it sat in the lineup. And obviously, ultimately, the 64 carried on for another couple of years. And then I think the Amiga, that came out in 85, 86 as well, didn't it?
Yeah.
Cool. I think it's a shame because, especially with that colour palette, I think it punches above its weight. There's some absolutely beautiful looking games.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And we'll get on to these very soon because we're all desperate about the games. I mean, that's what the podcast's about. A couple other things then, obviously just to make an awareness of how beefy, if you want, the Plus 4 is. It had user ports that supports all the peripherals like the disk drive and such like that. Commodore 16 didn't. So that was really a stripped back computer. The CPUs were the same. The early editions were based on the 7501 processor and then the revised 8501 processor later. That happened in both instances of the systems. Clock speeds are the same, and so in PAL it's 1.76 megahertz. That is so low in today's standards, and 1.79 for NTSC. The prices were the big difference. So we're talking about launch price here then, was the Commodore 16 $139.99, and that was the starter pack with the data cassette and software bundle. And the Commodore Plus 4, $299.99. But they quickly dropped to, commonly for the Commodore 16, £8 to £9.99. That's a good, I mean, you can see that temptation for parents for a computer for that price. But it dropped as low as £49. It's like Dixons are trying to get rid of it, And then, likewise with the Plus 4, it dropped to £149. Then £99, and then by 1985, $79.99. Which again, why would you not? Parents are just wanting to buy a computer and not really understanding the whole thing, not really necessarily thinking about games, even though they're maybe aware some games exist. That's a really good tempting price. But the main thing is, the games, there isn't that many exclusive Plus 4 games, which use the 64 kilobytes of RAM. So most games, not them all, worked in both systems. And that's why we're kind of covering these systems in tandem. Although the guys here all were Plus 4 owners, I had more experience going to play the Commodore 16. I've played the Plus 4, but mainly the Commodore 16. So that gives a bit perspective to it. So, shall we go on to the games?
Sounds good.
Let's do it.
We want a home computer. How much money have you got? £140. Well, how about the Commodore 16? Real typewriter keyboard, 16K memory, only £139.99. Super! But you'll need a cassette unit. Crikey. And software. 4 great games on here. Oh, yes, and these to teach yourself programming. But don't worry, boys. It's all here in the Commodore 16 Starter Pack. Wow! License suites for the change.
The Commodore 16 Complete Starter Pack, just £139.99.
So like with any 8-bit system, the amount of games that came out over the years, there was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. It's unbelievable. If you go to +4 World, which we'll put in the show notes, you can get the experience of these games very rapidly. You can see them in an A to Z or number to Z list and play them online in the browser if you so choose to. You don't even have to download an emulator. So let's celebrate this computer because it was another, albeit not as successful, home computer in the UK. Many, many people did get it, and it would be a shame and criminal not to give the limelight upon this system. So we all chose 5 games each. Yes, lots of games in this episode, people. Most of them will go, what do you think of that game, Oblisky? That was all right. And then Graham will go, yeah, that was okay too. And then we move on to the next game. I'm only joking. We've got with some really good games with memories tied to them, and that's the important thing. And so we all thought, good idea. We can't just do 3 games each. It wouldn't be a long enough episode. So 5 games each and some others, honourable mentions. We'll cover some of the exclusive games for the +4 as well. So what we'll do is we'll just do a game each from each other's choices and we'll jump between them. How does that sound, guys?
Sounds good.
Excellent. So I'm going to go to me first, only because it's at the top of the list and I'm a lazy bugger. I can't be bothered scrolling down. But this is Out on a Limb by Anirog Software that was released in 1984. Now this was basically a Jack and the Beanstalk inspired platformer where you obviously controlled Jack, don't get this confused with that awful treacherous game that I'm feeling hives coming out of me called Jack and the Beanstalk that came out in the ZX Spectrum that was abysmal. It was on our Gaming Turkeys episode. Absolutely chronic, terrible collision detection and such like. This is a multi-load game divided into 3 parts where you control Jack, who has to get all the coveted items up in the clouds from the giant's castle. So obviously the harp, the golden egg, and the money and such like. So when I first saw this, when I went up to a mate's house and I saw the cassette, I was used to there was a room in Jet Set Willie called Out on a Limb. And I'd never really heard of that, being young at that time, what that terminology means. We're young, we're learning, what does out on a limb mean? When I'm on a podcast, every single recording, I'm bloody out on a limb, guys. So I was like, oh, this is a Jet Set Willie game. And I suppose some ways it is, but it is a good platformer that I really enjoyed. So you have to jump up the beanstalk first, get into the clouds. Now, I think the jump arc is a bit janky in this, and trying to judge the distances can be a bit frustrating. But in general, I've always loved this game, and I always pestered my friend Gary to fire it up again and again because my love for platform games never diminishes. I just love a good jumping challenge and try to collect things and avoid the bad guys in a game. And the whole idea of just getting up the beanstalk into the cloud castle and exploring and the excitement of seeing what screen is next always excites me, despite how fiddly a game can be at times, including this one. But graphically, yeah, it's not too bad. It's a bit blocky, I suppose, but it's quite indicative of what some of the games look like on the Commodore 16 plus 4, even the Commodore 64 at this point. And yeah, I can't really fault it. I can't praise it and say it's the best platformer game in the face of the planet. But the whole point of having 3 parts to a game always excited me because I was like, I can't wait to see the next section, which goes upside down. And obviously, because all the rooms have names like games used to have back in the day. And the minute you go upside down, you're in Australia. Ho, ho, ho. How I laughed. But yeah, brilliant fun. And I could go back to this today and play it with great enjoyment. Opinions yourself, guys? I'll go to you first, Oblisky.
Yeah, I enjoyed this one. It started off really well. It controls well. It looks okay. Pretty obvious what you've got to do. The only problem I had, and the people that choose to watch the YouTube version of this will see, is that on the third screen, I just couldn't get past a certain one of the enemies. I tried everything I'll go when he's going to the right, I'll go when he's going to the left. I never got by him. So I only ever saw 3 screens, unfortunately.
You know what? I'm the same in my recording, but back in the day, I got into World 2.
Right. Well, I thought, every game's got a long play or at least some YouTube footage. I'll see where everybody else is jumping. Oh, nobody even got that far. So I got further than everybody else that I found on YouTube, but that didn't help me one bit. So yeah, I'm still stuck on the third screen.
There is a Commodore 64 playthrough that looks the same, so it might give you a clue, but it's a scrolling game rather than a flick screen.
Okay. But, otherwise, I was up until that point of repeatedly getting stuck on the same enemy. It was, it starts really well. Yeah, I was enjoying it.
Turnbl?
Yeah, it was my first time playing this. Stupid Christmas music really annoyed me. And I'll tell you about my first 10 minutes trying to play this game. So I was really trying desperately to collect the egg at the bottom right of the first screen. For the first 10 minutes, I was trying to walk behind the duck and time it so I could pick up this egg. I couldn't do it for the life of me. So I thought, finally, right, I'll go and try and jump up these tree branches. Every single one, I died each time, got a little bit further. Anyway, what ducks live in trees, are you asking? That would be the wood duck and the mandarin duck. So they live in the tree cavities, yeah. Anyway, so I finally got up to the top right branch on the very first screen. I was like, haha, I'm here. I can pick up this egg now. It's not an egg, it's a twig. And
it's a jaggy bush.
Yeah, it's a jaggy bush, a jaggy twig, and it killed me. So I got up to the top, died, and I'm like, this is really annoying. But it's got that kind of one more go part to it.
Yeah.
So then I eventually got up to you can actually jump off the top of the first screen and see the next screen, and then you land back down the first screen. I thought it was quite interesting. And eventually I got onto the second screen, and yeah, do I like it? No. And yes. But it's got that addictive nature to it. It's kind of like eating pretzels. I thought it was like, you really don't like doing it at the time, but then you keep eating them. So I will come back to this, and I do want to see each screen. And because of what Oblisky said about there being no YouTube playthroughs, I really want to see all the rest of the levels and finish it as well. So
I was hoping you was going to say that you got much further than me and you'd be happy recording a 15-minute clip.
Absolutely not.
I mean, each level has, the first level's got 6 screens. Because I'm just looking at a map of the game here. Level 2 has 8 screens, and level 3 has 9 screens. So there's not many to get through, but it really pushes your skill levels. And the trouble is, I know this game, and it was always tough, but if you've not played it before and you're retrospectively going back with modern gaming sentiments, or even sentiments of better designed platformers where you know what you can get away with. You get away with nothing in this game. You make one mistake, you're dead. There's no forgiveness at all. You have to be at the edge of each-platforming jump to make it to the next bit. That's the real trouble.
Yeah, even from that very first platform, it's almost pixel perfect getting from one side of the tree to the other. So it's there's no softly introduction. It's here you go. This is how hard it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's basically Rick Dangerous, but earlier.
Vertically. Well, if we got to the third screen, I'm not sure you did there, Turnbl, but did you think that the enemies on that screen, including the one that I can't get by, looked a little bit like Jet Set Willy?
Yeah,
Of course, there are minor willies walking about the screen.
Yeah, that was no accident, I don't think.
No, it's no accident. It's just the influence that Jet Set Willy had on the platform and game world at this time. Everyone wanted to make a Jet Set Willy game and make a successful one. This one didn't quite reach that par or the ambitions of maybe what the coder Sam Manthorpe had in his mind's eye when he was making it. But despite that, I think it's quite unique in its own way. It feels like its own thing. And that's what's important.
I think it's one to go back to and have another go at getting by the third screen. And I think I'll go back and play it again. I enjoyed it enough.
On to the next game then. And Turnbl, it's your choice this time. What are you going with?
Okay, my first pick, I'm going to go with Fire Ant. Now, this is one of the 10 packing games that came with the Plus 4. And on that first Christmas morning, this was actually the first game I played on the new computer. So lots of nostalgia there for me. So it's a maze game. You play the ant, as in the title. The reason I played this the first time was because it's got the words fire and ant in the title, and you can set ants on fire in real life. And I was a kid, and that's why I wanted to play it. So, of course, it'd be the first game I choose. The best thing about this is it's actually a really good game. It's got more mechanics than just sort of walking around the screen. So you have to collect the eggs to get your points higher. But the main mechanic is about getting the keys to open doors to get to the next level and opening other doors within that level. Now, there's other hidden parts to this, so each level's different. And this was the interesting thing about a game from this time. It actually reminded me slightly of the same mindset as Donkey Kong in the arcades, in that you'd have 4 completely different levels to play through. And this was almost the same in that level 2, you have to do something completely different to what you've done in level 1. There's like hidden walls, hidden pressure points that you need to get to. And in a pre-internet world, this just blew my mind as a kid, because you had to explore every single pixel in every single level to work out what to do to get through to the next part. Sound effects are imprinted on my soul. So the sound of the ant running around going dugga 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 dugga, and then picking up the key.
Where did it go?
It goes dugga 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 dugga, and then picking up the key would be beep boop. There's a dugga 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 beep boop. There's 8 levels to the game. I actually looked up. So this is on the title screen, I think it says DHB coded this. So I looked it up, and it's actually a guy called David H. Bolton, and I couldn't really find many more game credits from him, but I've actually tracked him down. I always feel like somebody's watching me, and I have no privacy. And tonight's Silla. So apparently he only lives 12 miles from me. So just thought that was quite interesting. So he's had a bit of a run in the industry, but he's doing other stuff, writing books now and that kind of thing. But yeah, just be interested to know his background and why he did this, and then didn't really seem to go on to do much more.
How many coders, authors of games do we know what they're doing these days? You don't. Many of them just released a couple of games, and that was it. Was the end of their employment in that industry, and as you said, moved on to other things. So that's cool. You going to buy him a beer for giving you an impression of the first gaming foray into home gaming?
If there's one programmer on this list that we're doing tonight that I would buy a beer, it would be him, because, spoilers alert, this is by far my favourite game on the Plus 4. And I'd also recommend it to any sort of first-timers playing the system. It just gives a good idea of what it can do. It's nice and colourful. And yeah, we've got a new Discord user, Chris++. If he wants to play an amazing game on this system, then I suggest this one. It's fantastic.
Cool.
If I went down to my mum and dad's now and said, name a Commodore 16 or Plus 4 game, this would be the one that they'd pick out. We played this a hell of a lot back in the day. Obviously, it helped with it being, like Turnbl said, a packing title. It's just such a unique game, and it's quite charming. It takes quite a lot of experimentation. There's various different bits and bobs in the maze. You don't quite know what they do. So you go and give it a go, pick something up, something else you don't pick up. It opens a gate or does a little animation to let you get a little bit further on. Some things just outright kill you. But like he says, you have to explore every pixel. Even things like going into a dead end, you'll just hear like a click. And then something else will be able to be picked up. So yeah, I love that experimentation side of it. And each level's very different. And I mean, it was a game that we completed because, once you know the sequence of events, it's just a case of getting through it. The mazes are inhabited by, I think, the scorpions, and they can be a bit of a bugger because sometimes they'll just go up and down. They won't let you to where you need to go, and you'll have to hang around a little bit, or they'll chase you down. Yeah, it's just a lovely little game that I've got good memories of this one.
Awesome. Well, this one's new to me. I was blown away with it. I was addicted. For all the reasons you guys have said, that this is the kind of game I would have wanted to play back in the day. It's not obvious straight away in how to play the game. There is solving things to do. There is, analysis of each of the screens that you're in. How am I going to do this? And risk and reward, if you want to call it that. The animations, I think, are superb. The scorpions are creepy fuckers, aren't they? That's the thing. And the way their movements have been captured in the sprites in this, as simple as they are, I think are very effective. But what an addictive game. It really is. I don't think I've really played... I've played other maze-type games like this. I think like games like Antics on the ZX Spectrum and things like that, if you want to stick with the Insect World or even the Birds and the Bees. But this is quite unique in its whole game and its whole flow, and that's what makes it stand out. What are the blue things that cascade down and clear the pathways? What's that meant to represent? Water eroding, or I've never been quite sure.
If it's soil or rocks, maybe. It's hard to tell, isn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter, is it? It's just something clears the path for you once you trigger it, and it's like a big opening to get down or an access to get to the other keys and that. So delightful. But you're right in what you said there. I quite like that in a game as well, Oblisky, about the erratic nature of the scorpions, where they're not on a fixed path. Obviously, they reach a node at a junction, and there's a random element to it, so they can go up and down, up and down. So for goodness sake, will you just get out of the way so I can get the key or the egg so I can move on? But yeah, I was blown away, absolutely blown away. A game I have not been aware of, so this is an excellent choice.
Yeah, it's a really good pick, that one is.
Well done, Turnbl. Right, on to our next game, and it is your choice, Oblisky.
I'm going to start with Arthanoid, which obviously by the wordplay there, it's Shaun Southern's copy of Arkanoid, which was released the year before. So you can almost imagine him going into an arcade, having a little look at it and thinking, oh, I can do something like that. And what he came up with, I think he absolutely nailed it. He's got it uses so much of the palette. It looks absolutely wonderful. It plays really nice. I always like breakout games when the ball travels as physics you would expect with physics, rather than go off in random directions that you do see on some games of that type. Apart from the first two levels, which I think are the same as Arkanoid, after that they vary quite a lot, and there's some really interesting levels in there, some good varied designs. It's just got everything in there. I think the only thing that the music, I'm sure you'll agree, the music is better turned off, which actually I did find out how to do. Well, found out how to do. I did it by accident, and I was playing it, and I left myself with just the sound effects and thought, I don't know how I've done that, but thank you, Lord. Because you'll see if you play it, the music is quite nauseating. I think if my dog was in here, it would make him howl. It's so high pitched. But no, it turn it down. It takes nothing away from what is an absolutely brilliant breakout game. I absolutely love it.
When the names for the games came through, I assumed this was a platforming game, and I'll be playing a character called Arthanoid. And I'm an absolute idiot. Yeah, so obviously Arkanoid. The music is ear-piercing Irish jig nonsense and needs to die. But the game is decent. I found, so I've been playing most of these games on my Plus 4 real hardware and using the original Commodore joystick that came with it, one of the leaf switch ones. And even that, the paddle felt too sensitive to me on the screen. I just couldn't quite, I was always going a bit too far most of the time. I don't think we could get any keys working either. So just the controls really for me, but I think it plays a decent game, and obviously the falling blocks, it plays like any other Arkanoid game. You want to be looking for the red blocks because that's the laser, and that's the one. Because I couldn't use my paddle to get the ball, I'd need to shoot all the blocks as fast as I could with the laser before the ball came down. Yeah, so I thought this was a decent game. Yeah.
I looked at your guys' perspective for this and playing this on your first home computer. Now, for me, way back in the early 80s, it would have been the Horizons cassette on the ZX Spectrum. You were bundled with games that were written in BASIC, and it came with a breakout game called Through the Wall. Oh my God, it was atrocious, chaps. Seriously. So I'm envious of your earlier experiences of a very good bat and ball smash the bricks game. You've had it. You've got a solid one here. It's incredible. It is. I mean, for me, obviously, I've got, from my experiences, I would have played the Arkanoid ports and Batty that came on the Your Sinclair cover disc as well. So this is new to me. I didn't see this in any friends' houses either. So it was new to me. But you know what? I was pretty much addicted. Again, I think you nailed it, Oblisky, in saying that if the ball physics is right,
yeah,
the game feels right. It's difficult now that when you go to the arcades that you know this is a paddle game. You need a spinner to play it. So when we go to Arcade Club, we'll go on Arkanoid, won't we? And we get a chance to use the spinner to play it and really enjoy a game and have that nuanced speed, because it's more analog. This is a digital movement, isn't it, where it's just left and right, but you do get the hang of it very rapidly and realise the Commodore 16 Plus 4, whatever, has a very good bat and ball game that is fantastic. But I can't slate it, apart from the music, like everyone else has said. There's no point in repeating that shrill shit that is playing. But yeah, this is good. And it was funny, we were laughing earlier on because for whatever reason, because we're deciding games and you were umming and eyeing over, you had a list of 6 games before you whittled it down to 5. I had missed this, so I just played this the other night. I mean, what the heck? On top of that then, even though I played it just, a few days ago, I probably spent a ridiculous, because I had a break, because I'd obviously done a lot of playing for the games, because we're like 2 ships in the night. All of us try to get a date to record. I'd played these games ages ago, so it was great to return again to this system and play this. So therefore, I wasn't scunnered, for a good Scottish word, off playing these games too much that I needed a break. I was like, right, I'm into this, and a good few levels on, I was like, another one just to see what because there's this addiction about what is the next layout of the bricks going to look like. This game does that, doesn't it? It's like, I need to see the next screen.
Yeah, it definitely does. I think leading into the episode, I think this is the game that I played the most. Sometimes I'd boot the emulator up and think, I'll play one of the games I've not played before, and then Arkanoid's at the top. I'll just have another go and see how I get on. And thinking about it, back in the day, this wasn't one of the games I would have played that much. A lot of the nostalgia for this comes from my dad. Absolutely loved this. I mean, one of the things I would say was when I had the Commodore, I think he probably played it more than I did. I mean, he finished this, and it was a bit like, how you get the 70s, 80s adverts where, somebody's playing on a computer or doing something with a game, and the whole family's like, they're watching. It was a bit like that for us because, we had the one TV in the house downstairs. So this would be, when this was on, TV wasn't on. So it was the main source of entertainment and everybody would be there watching. But my dad absolutely adored this. Well, any bat and ball games, but, this was the one we had. And the amount of times where we'd be late for bed on a school night because he'd have a really good run at it, maybe 30, 40, 45 minutes. And he did finish it eventually. And playing it back now, that is an incredible feat because, it's as the levels progress a bit and you start getting the ones with more silver and gold blocks on where that ball goes so fast that my reactions, you just can't do it. And
Getting old, son. You're getting old.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, that's not the only game I'm going to mention that, I'm sure. But but yeah, so I take my hat off to my dad finishing this. A phenomenal achievement. Yeah, really, really good.
Well, that's a good point. And in terms of parents playing the systems with you, you had a lot of exposure with that Oblisky where your parents did enjoy. You kind of grew up being a gamer with parents that at the time enjoyed gaming. I mean, that's weird for me. The toaster is newfangled for my parents because that's modern tech to the toasting fork at the coal fire. Seriously, I am absolutely serious about that. What about yourself, Graham? I mean, you said your dad wasn't interested, but was your mother more interested in having a few games with you?
No, never interested at all. The only thing I can think of is my uncle came round once we played on leaderboard on the Commodore 64, but even that, he just couldn't get the clicks, and just like an old person, he just couldn't get it, and it didn't work. And computers for me at that time, it was all about finding out stuff for myself, and like you say, going around friends' house.
Yeah, it's a shame because I think we all looked for a parent's approval, and the minute you had a parent showing interest in the game, it felt like amazing. There was a connection. And like for my dad, he would play a golfing game with me, even though he never took up golf in his life. No interest, even when he walked past the golf course and we got 3 or 4 on our doorstep where we are. Zero interest. But the minute a golfing game was on the computer, he was like, I'll play that with you. So it felt important, that connection, so none of us are like that with our own kids, are we? It was like, although our kids have arse-tasting games, you know what the game's about.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. My daughter's the same age now as I was when I got the +4.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about this, the amount of stuff she knows already at that age about technology. She can use a touch screen. She can make videos, she can edit videos on her tablet, she can play a brand new modern 3D game using a modern controller with dual sticks. She's played through all my old like handheld consoles like the DS and everything, so she's got such a broad knowledge
of her.
Technology and gaming by the age of 9, and she's the age now that I was when I got my first computer, so I was just starting from nothing. It's interesting.
Yeah.
You see, one of the good things about having gaming parents is it's not too difficult to persuade them you need a new game, because it might be something they think that they get to play.
Good point. So it's back to my choice, and we're going to go to 1986, and it was Kingsoft software, and we are going to cover Bongo. So anyway, Bongo is a lovely ladders, levels and slides platformer where you control Bongo the super mouse. He has to spell the word Bongo and collect them in the game, and he is pursued by a big nose, weird looking guy. It's just strange looking, to say the least, but you can imagine, games like Bounty Bob and things like that. Okay, you're not filling the platforms like that, but it's got the slides and ladders and levels, and it's all single screen. And this weird big nose guy has got the most phallic nose you've ever seen in gaming history. Keeps following you. If you're on the ground level, he makes his way down, not as the crow flies, but to his nearest ladder. he can't go down the slopes and the slides, so he has to always go for the ladder. So that helps your super mouse, get the advantage over him where you collect the letters. But I find it's really addictive. I like a good single screen arcade-like game where everything you see is on the screen, and the first few plays you go, what the hell's going on, till you get the hang of it, and then you go, right, this is how you play it. You learn the nuance of the level, where the elevators are, or the ramps, or the ladders themselves, and run about collecting everything. And I think it's really good fun. I had played it on the Spectrum prior to playing this on my mate's Commodore, but this trumps it. This is the best version, in my opinion. I think it is the best version, and I'll go back to this and play this every time. So I'll go to yourself, Oblisky. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, I enjoyed this. If you're ever going to run from an antagonist, that is the one, isn't it? With knob nose. He's a scary looking guy. But I like this. This at first look, it comes on and you're up there in the top right-hand corner, and it's a little bit overwhelming. Oh, what am I supposed to do here? What am I doing? There's ladders everywhere. There's slides everywhere. But yeah, once you get the hang of it and work out what you've got to do, it's a nice little arcade single-screen platformer. Yeah, as you progress, the guy gets faster, and the placement of the things that you've got to pick up get a little bit more. You're like running around. Oh, how am I going to get up there? Is it up that ladder, or I've got to go up there then to come back down that slide? I really like that. So you're keeping one eye on the knob nose guy and the other one on where you've got to go.
Knob nose guy. What a great name, knob nose guy.
He's staying as knob nose guy now.
That's it.
This is a great pick. It's a cracking little arcade style platformer. Yeah, really enjoyed it.
What's it? Turnbl?
Yeah, it looks like a children's ITV fever dream. I played for you'll laugh at this again, I played for a whole 20 minutes not knowing I could jump. And I thought it was the hardest game I'd ever played.
I can imagine.
There is a lot going on to start off with, isn't there? Yeah,
it's overwhelming.
I was trying to learn all the sort of going up elevators and down steps and working out what to do. I eventually worked out, I think you have to pick up all the bingo letters, don't you? And then you have to pick up...
Bingo! Bongo!
Sorry,
Bongo. Bingo.
Yeah, Bongo. And then you have to collect a purple orb, I think, that then triggers end of level. Is that right?
I didn't do that. I just picked up the purple ones, and I thought collecting the Bongo letters would maybe get you an extra life. So I was completing levels just by collecting the purple ones.
I mean, it's silly. I mean, you go for what the name of the game is and the premise, if you know what I mean. It's like, well, that must be what you have to do. But there's a whole mix of things to actually collect.
But yeah, I liked it. I'll probably go back to it. I think once you get the mechanics, it starts to make much more sense.
Yeah.
And did you notice the music? It was basically somebody had copied Axel F, but changed 25% of the notes.
I didn't notice that.
That's probably why it seemed familiar, but not quite. Yeah, yeah. Not that attentive.
What was more worrying for me, just because of the colour schemes used, it's like the super mouse that you control, his bottom half, it's like he's pissed his pants and he's stripped them off. You get young kids that do that. They're maybe at a party or something. The parents have taken their trousers off because they've pissed themselves, right? This is what... No wonder that Jimmy Savile fucker's chasing him. He's half fucking naked. This is the whole point here. It's just like... It's creepy. It's like mouse bumming simulator or something. I don't know. It's just not right.
So, Kingy, what did the hippo take then in the advert?
I can't remember.
An apricot, a guava, and a mango. And the Python picked the passion fruit, the marmoset, the mandarin. There you go.
The trouble is, I never drank that pish. It was the most synthetic. It was a precursor to Sunny D, right? It made kids hyper. And ADHD wasn't diagnosed in the classrooms back in those days when we were drinking that shit. No wonder I had some nutters in my class.
Way down deep in the middle of the Congo, a hippo talking every caught a guava and a mango. He stuck up with the others and he danced a naked tango. The rhino said, I know, we'll call it Bongo. Bongo, the trick in the Bongo. The bison in the bash and through the mama said the mandarin, the power quentin, all stuff, nothing to go to land it is. So when it comes to sun and fun and goodness in the jungle, they all prefer the sunny, funny one they call Bongo. Libby's
Right, next game. It is back on yourself, Graham.
Okay, let's go with Trailblazer. This is by Shaun Southern. This worked on the C16 as well. It's a, what do you call this? You like your bouncing balls, don't you, Kingy? So this is a ball bouncing game. If you imagine a vector track moving towards you, all different coloured tiles on it, your ball bounces along them. Different tiles do different things to the ball, and then you have your black squares or actually gaps in the tiles that you fall through. So I loved this when I was a kid, and I think it holds up really well. So this, I think, is, again, I prefer this version to all the other versions. Even though the Commodore 64 one has got 2-player in it, I think this just works really well with the full screen and the speed of the graphics going along on the Plus 4. It reminds me these days a bit of Tetris, actually, because you're sort of seeing visual items coming from the top of the screen down to the bottom, and you're having to react, and you're moving left and right, trying to go on the different coloured squares. And I have to admit, I cannot play this these days. I got to the second level. That was it. The key to this game is slowing down rather than speeding up. So as a kid, you'd just go as fast as you could, die lots, but it's actually about slowing down, getting around the gaps. And yeah, I find this really addictive. I'm going to go back to it, and I want to get better at it, but I think it may be a lost cause now at my age.
I'll briefly interject here and go, well, it's a game I'm very familiar with on many systems, not uniquely to this. Had it on my Spectrum, played it on the Commodore 64, so it's a thing I've known all my life, and it is a tough game. And you are tempted, like you said there, Turnbl, to go extremely fast, and you cannot play it like that. It's just so bloody difficult. The amount of times you fall down the voids or whatever with your ball. But specifically to this game on the the Plus 4 C16, I think it is really visually impressive, and it's easy enough to look upon it with jaded eyes today, but back then it felt and looked like cutting edge. But the speed that this runs at is very impressive for the way the tiles come from the front, semi-front, semi-top of the screen, and how it runs is absolutely incredible. So it's an impressive version. And if you like games like Bounder as well, if you've never played that, Trailblazer, which is top down, it's a similar one, but this is more mintery is the best way to describe it if you ever want to play this. It's really, really good.
I don't think there's anything to add really that you guys haven't already said. It's technically impressive. It's nice and colourful, and it runs at a really fast pace, probably too fast. My eyes and brain can't keep up with it these days. I do think that I've got memories of having this back in the day, and I'm sure, because I know it does loop. You get to the end of, I'm not sure if there's about 15 levels, and then it loops back round. And obviously, each time you get to the end of a stage, your time adds on to the amount that you get for that next stage. So it can build up if you're quite good at it. And I'm fairly sure that I looped this back in the day, but these days I was quite hopeless. And, trying to memorize courses like that, I think I'm well past that. So even though I enjoyed it, I can't see me being able to play it to a decent standard anymore.
Yeah, just a couple of more things on this. The bouncing ball itself, it's a fantastic sprite. It's got the panels that move around it a bit like a 1970 Adidas Telstar football for all you football fans out there, and just looks lovely. And one tile you want to avoid more than any other is the cyan tile swaps your left and right controls.
In the arse, isn't it?
Yeah, you get zones, don't you, that where, well, you've not really got much choice. I think they come from as early as level 3 based on doing the video for the YouTube, because I think I got to about level 5 after a few goes. But even based on what I've just said, I genuinely don't think I'd memorize much more than those first 2 levels, and then it just feels like pure luck after that, even slowing down a bit, which does help. But yeah, it's a very tough game.
Right, on to yourself, Oblisky.
The next game I've picked is, let's go for the full title first. It's called More Adventures of Big Mac, the Mad Maintenance Man. So as we did back in the day, I think we'll just shorten that to Big Mac because we don't want to keep saying that. This is a game by Tony Kelly for Mr. Chip Software, which there were many games on the Commodore 16 and Plus 4. And what is it? It's a single screen platformer over 16 levels. And to give you an idea, think of if Manic Miner, you have to collect all the keys and then get to the exit. In this one, you have to flick switches, which will remove walls or lasers or things like that. And eventually, one of them will reveal the exit. So at the same time, you have got I think there are electric bolts that are being fired across, and there are moving platforms and things like that to make life hard for you. And all while this is happening, there is an air bar at the bottom that's ever diminishing. So you've got to get a bit of a move on these levels. So not the first time you play, you've got to work out which order the switches need to be activated in so you can progress to where the exit is eventually going to be. But yeah, once you've nailed it, you've got to get a bit of a move on. The levels are pretty varied, and obviously they get harder as each one goes by. It's a really, really good single screen platformer, I think. So what do you guys think of it?
This is the prequel to Mr. Puniverse, is that right?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so I owned Mr. Puniverse, but not Big Mac. So again, my first time playing this properly. And yeah, it was very much more of the same, a little bit simpler maybe, but I really like these games. And yeah, this is just a really good platform game. Again, would have been a budget title back in the day. And it's just so much value for what you get in these games, because as a kid, this would just fill days and weeks of your life playing this. It feels almost a little bit like a 1-bit Impossible Mission style game. You know, it's almost like a prequel to that style of run and jump and up the lifts and everything, but this obviously zoomed out and you see it kind of on the one screen. I really like stuff like this.
I was jealous of when you were looking at the carousel back in the day of budget games and that, and seeing these, and you would look at all the other systems as well as the one you owned and saw the screenshots of this game on the back of the pamphlet. You were so jealous of that pseudo 3D aesthetic and just the wonderful use of colours that is like, I so want this game. It doesn't exist on the system I own. And I'm sure that'll be for, whether you're an Amstrad person or a BBC person or a Spectrum or whatever. It was great to have these unique games for these, these lovely systems. And it wasn't until I went up to my mate's house and to give it a try, and I was hooked. Absolutely hooked. It's a well-written and well-made platforming game that kind of marches to the beat of its own drum. Yes, inspired by the games that came before it. There will always be, the minute you've got a level where you collect things or whatever, and then there's an exit, you're going to get Manic Miner comparisons. But you're right, Oblisky, it's not about collecting keys in the same way. It's its own thing. Figure the trigger switches and whatnot. The first level seems simplistic, and that's the trouble. If you're going to give this game a try, don't just stick with the first 5 levels. They're mere introductories. You've got to give it a deeper chance than that. And when you get to the further levels, the game reveals itself and how challenging and unique it actually is. And it's one of the finer platform games out there. Yeah, there's janky elements, but so does every bit platformer, to be honest, truth be told. And I think this is one of the finest games for these systems, personally, if you ask me.
Yeah. I mean, again, this one of the things that I enjoyed about this back in the day as well is it's got the 2-player where I think you keep going until you die, and then it goes back to the other player rather than it being level by level or life by life. And again, this is another game that my dad really got into. So we'd probably start together, and I'd fall by the wayside at maybe level 4, 5, 6 or something like that, and he'd get much further, and again everybody be sat there watching. And it's another game that he did eventually complete, which is again, these the later stages are really hard, so that was pretty good going. But yeah, there's great memories of this one. Many a school night we'd sit there playing this one. Very good.
Brilliant. A good choice. Really good choice.
The other curious thing about the title as well is it's called More Adventures. Yeah, there's no evidence of there ever being any previous adventures.
Back to my choice, isn't it, chaps?
Yep, it is.
Right, so I'm going to go with Tom Thumb, released in 1985, again by Anirog Software. Typically, I've chosen another platformer game. Sorry, guys, but that's what I was exposed to back in the day. This could be a quite sluggish, quite brutal game because once you die, you get kicked back to the start. It's got an annoying tune. What's it got going for it? I just loved it. I loved the graphics, the colour schemes of the Commodore 16 at this point, and I was just looking for more platform adventures, more worlds to explore in. And the best thing about this game is, I mean, Tom Thumb, he doesn't look tiny. Tom Thumb is meant to be a tiny guy the size of your thumb, right? But the reality is, in the world he's in, everything's the same size as him, so there's no perspective nonsense going on. It could be called anything. Let's be honest about that. But it has that BBC Micro feel, this game, and I just love this large, scrolling, exploratory world where it's just zany and it feels all together quite random, and you're not sure which directions to go in. There's multiple pathways, that gives you direction anxiety. It's like, oh, should I go this way? Should I go that way? So it's less linear than you may think, and it is tough. You'll play this and you'll die, and you go back to the start of whatever. And I'll be interested to see how Oblisky says how well he got on with this one, because he's a very good gamer. If he says he died in the game and didn't get far, it's a sign of a very bad game. When he puts his mind to these type of games, he gets bloody far. So I'll go with you first, mate.
Unfortunately, I didn't go very far. So, yeah, you start off and it all looks very good. The first thing that's a little bit weird is the guy's got the weirdest jumping arc ever. He seems to go up and then forward and then down rather than in an arc.
Yeah.
So that's quite strange in itself. But you get used to that, and as the enemies are coming towards you, or even the static ones, you get used to where you need to be placed to jump over them. But again, a bit like Out on a Limb, as people will see who decide to watch the YouTube version, you get over to the left-hand side of the first section, and then something sort of shoots you up into the air, and then you have to go right. And the first thing that you have to negotiate is a jump up onto a tiny platform, and there's a laser or something like that, and it comes and goes. Wow, I never got past that. And it plays, I don't know, I was going to say quite slowly.
It does, it's sluggish. It's very sluggish, mate.
It is quite, isn't it? So, and like you say, you go back to the start, there's no checkpoints, or at least I didn't find a checkpoint at that point. So you go over and up you go, oh, right, I'll time it better this time. I'll go when it's off. He got me. And then, I'll go when it's on. Got me. Oh, I'll try and jump onto that tiny little bit of platform and then walk through when it's off. No. So my experience of this was quite short, but it is one of them games that you do think, oh, I'd like to see a bit further and, see what else they bring into this.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so difficult, and I just didn't get very far, unfortunately.
And there's 178 screens as plastered on the cassette cover on the front. So it's a large game.
Is there any checkpoints or levels or anything?
Not to my knowledge, but I never ever got that far. I always wanted to be better on it, even back in the day. So, please, if anyone's played this and can get further and there's some kind of checkpoint, or you just get one life and proceeds and as such, then please inform us better than our opinion.
If anybody's completed this, take a bow.
Yeah.
I think this was made by Udo Gertz, who also made Bongo, wasn't it? So I know this is really well regarded. If you look up all the top 10, top 20 +4 games ever, 16 +4 games ever, this gets mentioned a lot. I really didn't get on with this at all. I thought it's the controls that got me. It's this long floaty jump. I agree with Oblisky. It's a weird arc that doesn't quite make sense. I thought the music was pretty bad. The graphics, obviously, I think the general style to all these Udo Gertz games are kind of big sprites. And I'm pretty sure back in the day, looking at this on a CRT and, seeing bigger sprites than you normally would do, it's quite an impressive thing. But just this type of game for me these days, the control scheme didn't work. Not for me. No further comments, Your Honour.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I can understand its shortcomings. I was just too much a sucker for the games within the genre back in the day that I couldn't see the forest for the trees. I just decided I liked every platformer game that ever existed, and that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I did spend a lot of time playing it back in the past, doing terribly, may I add. Okay, we're on back to yourself, Turnbl. What's your next choice?
I've gone for Exorcist. So this is another packing game with the +4. This is written by Greg Duddle. And yeah, back in the day, this only worked for me maybe a quarter of the time loading this up on cassette. So clearly the Exorcist girl in the original films has got something going on here. It's a Pac-Man clone, but maybe a bit more like Crush Roller, where you fill in the sides of the grid rather than eating pills. There's two main differentials to a normal Pac-Man game. So you've got a map shown in the bottom right of the screen, and this is a map of all the boards that you can complete. So they get filled in as you progress through each board, and that's a nice little touch. You can see your progress throughout the game. And then secondly, the music is what absolutely makes it for this for me. It's godlike music. It's by David Whittaker. Yes, the David Whittaker. I think it's one of his first tracks in the industry. The music lasts long enough so that there's a proper verse, pre-chorus and chorus to the loop. And weirdly, listen to it again, the middle part of the music sounds bizarrely like there's a track in the original 91 Lemmings game. The track's actually called Rainbow Islands, and it's the pan flute one, and it sounds exactly like that, or just like it. So I looked for some drama in the industry, but I couldn't find anything. But yeah, it's a really good game. Again, free game for me as it's a pack-in. Still really playable these days. And like I say, the two main extra bits about it, you get this amazing music, and then you get this kind of map being filled in as you progress. What do you think?
Me personally, I think this is brilliant. I've never played this before, and I was hooked. It just stood out. Love the nature of it. I love that it's not quite a Pac-Man game. I love how you could get to kill all the ghosts in all the levels, so shooting them, and as you said, filling in the walls. The music totally stands out. You heard it straight away. It's like when you had a good in-game tune back in the day, and it was an earworm for the rest of the day after you're playing it. That is this. is there, and it's how game music should be. Okay, it's rudimentary, it's a limited audio chip in the system, but nonetheless, when you have the right music or musician making the audio for it, and David Whittaker, well, he's a legend, and it shows, it shines. And is the game better for having it? Absolutely. Would I enjoyed it just as much without it? Probably not. But music and a good game go hand in hand, and this really stands out. Brilliant. Great choice, and I'm glad now I'm aware of this, because I'll go back and play this again. It's fantastic.
Although this was a packing title, I don't recall ever really playing it. So whether it was one of them games that we loaded up and we didn't instantly gel with, I'm not sure. And preparing for this episode, it was the last one that I ended up playing. It almost, oh look, there's Exorcist. I've not played that one yet. And I mean, obviously it's a, like Turnbl said, it's a Pac-Man clone there. And, but I love the twist on it. Each time you clear the screen, you go off in a certain direction. You're in a maze, and you've got to pick up these certain things that reveal more map. Well, I'm not sure what the ultimate aim was. That never really became clear to me, and it does get hard quite quickly. If you get a screen with 4 ghosts in, and you can pick up these lightning bolts that when you shoot them at the ghosts, if you hit them, it slows them down for the remainder of that level or until you die. And if you lose those, because they don't come back once you lose a life, you get a certain amount per screen. If you've got 4 ghosts and they're at full speed, you've really got a job on to then complete that screen. It's quite hard there, but I do like the idea of it, and the take, a different take on Pac-Man. And the time I spent with it, I really enjoyed it. I'm just embarrassed to say that I can't remember the music at all, so I am going to have to go back to that and have a little listen. The one issue I had with it, and again, people may notice it in the video, it's solvable, but whether I played it on my joypad or keys, I had the situation where sometimes it just didn't go off in the direction that I wanted to. Now,
it's just you.
Well, maybe, but I tried both ways that were available to me, and I had the same issues. But if you could get a peripheral where you can just have up, down, left, right, and none of the diagonals, I presume you'd get around that. Mm-hmm. And I definitely recommend playing this one. It's a great game.
Excellent. Right, it's on to your game, mate. So what are you going to choose now?
Right. Next one, might as well go straight from Big Mac to Mr. Puniverse then, seeing as it is the sequel. But it's a little bit weird because I don't feel like there's any continuation from the first game. So if I describe the first one as being, thinking of Manic Miner, but with the single screen setup there, then this is pretty much like Jet Set Willy is, in that it's open world. It's played across 25 screens. And you've got to go around and collect vitamins and avoid similar obstacles to Big Mac. You've got electricity shooting across the screen. You've got things that can come down and crush you. And again, a bit like in Big Mac, you've got an air bar. In this one, you've got an energy bar. So as you move, in some screens, it ticks down quite fast. In other screens, it's quite slow. But I didn't actually know this until I was playing it on emulation for this episode. Some screens actually let you restore it again at different speeds. But if you hang around, it can go back up to the top, and then off you go again in the ones where it ticks down. I had no idea about that for a while, so I was running around. My energy runs out all the time. This is what am I supposed to do about this? And then, look, in this screen, it goes back up.
Yeah.
But so it's an open world collectible, very much in the style of Jet Set Willy. I don't think there's any, the Big Mac was released the year after Manic Miner, and this was released, I think, the year after Jet Set Willy. So there was definitely some influence there. Yeah, it's one that I go back to, and I enjoy playing this one.
Turnbl?
Yeah, as I said, owned this back in the 80s. Really liked it at the time. It's a good challenge. I remember my go-to shop to buy all these +4 games would have been John Menzies, or John Menges, as you'd say, Kingy. And you'd go upstairs in Queensgate Arcade in Peterborough. Upstairs, you'd have the Sibly sets. You'd have Rob the Robot with the NES gathering dust that nobody bought. And then you just have this little carousel of all the +4, C16 +4 games. So yeah, I would have got this in there. And yeah, playing it again, it's, as I remember, that kind of challenge that you want in a platformer. I'd like to actually go back and play it a bit more than I did, to be honest. So I'll do that after this. But yeah, no complaints with this game. It's an excellent example of a platformer on the system.
Yeah, I'm with you there. The evolution, I mean, the whole evolution from Man and Miner to Jet Set Willy is renowned anyway. And I don't blame games for copying that kind of format. And I like this better than Big Mac, personally, simply because of the exploratory nature that the game provides. Albeit there's only, as you said, I always felt more Oblisky. It's only 25 screens. I was convinced it was hundreds. You know,
it does feel like that when you're running around and, I've not been there. I think it's because some of them, it takes absolutely ages to get across them. And it does feel a lot bigger. I went on and had a look at the map on +4 World, and I'm sure it's 25 screens. So it does a very good job of making the world feel a lot bigger than it actually is.
And that's a whole good point. It's bigger than the sum of all its parts. Excuse me. But no, I've always enjoyed this. It's a go-to game, and I think when you mentioned the +4 of Commodore 16, Big Mac and Mr. Puniverse are up there with the most mentioned games. Whether they're the best, maybe not necessarily, but simply because people were able to afford them at a budget price. I think that's what it comes down to, isn't it? And or packing as well. If it's packed in, if you've got the +4 pack in, then what a wonderful collection of games to go through. We're very lucky in that way. It was a packing one, you said, yes?
No, this one
isn't. Sorry, my mistake.
This was a Mastertronic release.
My Mastertronic, that's right, yeah. I remember the front cover. The front cover was very appealing anyway. It's like, oh, what's this? And then I looked at it, it was like, not fair, I can't get it from my own computer. No, I want a Commodore 16, I want to play it on this. Brilliant. I think it's superb. I really do. Yeah. I can't fault it in any way. It does exactly what it says in the tin. And for those that love a good platforming game, won't be disappointed in playing this.
No.
Okay, on to the next one. Back to me again, isn't it?
It is.
This is the Tomb of Tarrabash, or Tomb of Tarrabash, as I always thought it was called all my bloody days until now. The age of 52, I've read wrong all my days. So you play the role of Indiana Bloggs. What a frickin' name that is. And have discovered the Tomb of Tarrabash. And this is a multi-leveled scrolling platformer where you just have to solve how to get out of each bit of the tomb. And there are booby traps and levers or buttons to push to activate the access to get further. So there could be gates, portcullises that don't move. You find a button to activate it, get up the way, go up the steps, get to that level, avoid crushers. Sometimes the crushers move fast, so don't go under them. You've got to find the button to make them go slower. So it's all about, don't rush it. If you don't think you can get under it, don't even attempt it. There must be a button to change its speed. But what I liked about this and many of the other Commodore games at this point, I'm so used to black backgrounds in the games because that was a limitation of the computer I was using. To see the sort of red bricks or whatever, without really affecting I'm not saying the game's fast, but it doesn't hinder the scrolling. It makes it more visually impressive. You do feel you're more in a tomb or a temple or whatever in the game. The main sprite does look like a naked Adolf Hitler with a bad flick, to say the least. It's strange looking. I mean, I don't know how many of these games I'm playing on the Commodore where the main character looks naked. Is there a recurring theme that I don't know about? I'm not a member of the Commodore Club that I'm missing here. I really don't know, but odd-looking main characters, but quite an enjoyable platformer game if you can overlook the fiddliness of getting back up the stairs. If you don't press the buttons in the right angle, it doesn't go back up the stairs, it goes through them to the level, So you go behind the stairs and go down the corridor through the stairs. So you have to battle with the mechanics of the game slightly to get the hang of it. But overall, I think it's still quite enjoyable. I'll go to you, Oblisky.
Yeah, I enjoyed this. It's like you say, it's a bit of a slow burner, but it's a pretty interesting game. I enjoyed the exploration and, going off, trying to find which switches opened which doors or slowed down the crushers, like you say. The controls are a little bit fiddly at first. I managed to negotiate the stair. Weirdly, if you walk and press down, you go up the stairs.
Oh, do you know? Right, okay.
That's how it seemed to be that way anyway. But I mean, it takes a little working out to start off with. What you're supposed to do, and the little baddies there that they spawn and pretty much shoot straight away, and then you're in trouble then. But once you work those out and what you've got to do, it's nice going off and making a little bit of progress. So I've played it for a little bit for the episode, but I can see me going back to this and seeing if I can try and get a little bit further, because I did enjoy my time with it.
Oh, awesome.
Kingy, are you aware of In the Night Garden? Or are you too old for that?
I do know what it is, yeah.
Because all I saw was hundreds of Iggle Piggles being procreated from a Star Trek transporter, and that I couldn't get past it. And, well, literally and physically, I couldn't get past it. So I was forced onto keys. Me and you are different. We're built differently. I need my joystick. And it forced me to play on keys. And I could not get past the first 10, 20, 30 seconds.
That's a shame.
I could not understand what I was supposed to do. I will go back to it and see what I was doing wrong. But it was quite amusing. I kept getting killed. So it does say you got 0 points. Well done. Enter your initials. And it's like, well, come on, really? I'll give it another go. But for whatever reason, that day I was playing it, I wasn't really getting what I needed to do.
Okay. It kind of leads you on to the direction you need to go on. And you will see a crush or a perkless and it doesn't move. You go, well, I can't get past this. There's a button in the vicinity. You hit that button with your head and then something will move. You don't get an audible sound or anything like you would today. You get this, play Tomb Raider and you pull a lever and you hear that good chunk and it's like, well, something happened somewhere. The game doesn't lead you that way, but once you get used to the mechanic, you go, right, I've went left, I've hit that, obviously I need to go right now, and then you'll see something moving.
So I was going left, and that's the problem, is it?
Yeah, it's not all about going left; it's about going whatever direction.
Because that Iggle Piggle kept chasing after me and killing me. That's basically what was happening. It was too quick for me, so I must have been doing something wrong.
Well, you have to shoot the Iggle Piggles really quickly after they spawn, otherwise they release their shot and you
They released their what?
Right.
Hold on.
Pardon?
You said what, Oblisky? Shoot. There's a shoot key.
Yes, there's a fire button. Yes,
and
yes.
Is that my issue with the game?
So, you have to, as soon as they spawn, you've got maybe, 3 or 4 seconons before they shoot you.
I keep firing all the time.
You have to.
It's getting worse now. Yeah. You've just constantly got to fire when you're walking in a sort of empty bit of the corridor where the spawn points are.
But you do need a good, 5-10 minutes or a few tries just to get the hang of, your controls and what you're actually doing. And then once you've got that,
it becomes quite enjoyable, doesn't it? It's actually not too a bad game.
No, it's good.
Cool.
Okay, back to me. 4th game, Treasure Island. So yet another packing game. This is by Greg Duddle in 1985. And this was the 2nd game I ever played on the +4 on that Christmas 85 morning. So you play as protagonist Jim Hawkins. It's kind of a maze game in a jungle. The idea is to get past the pirates. Some will throw cutlasses at you, and then you can collect the cutlasses and throw back at them to get them out of the way. It's a flick screen maze game. It's nice and colourful. Again, really good advert for the +4. This was a +4 only game, actually. It was a 32k game. And then, so you basically go around the whole map, find the treasure, and then, of course, you get the girl. Oh, no, sorry, you don't. At that point, you get Long John Silver chasing you like the scariest thing in the 80s, possibly since the Superman 3 Robot Woman. It was just, as a kid, you thought you'd won the game, and no, suddenly you've got this Long John Silver chasing you, just slightly quicker than you, but as long as you get off the screen, you can get back a little bit of a lead, and then you have to find the exit to the island. So, again, loved this back in the day. I placed this alongside at Fire Ant as my top 2 games in out of those 10 that came with the system. And one final thing, all of the pirates that you're up against, they look like Axl Roses dancing on the spot. And once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Oh, thanks for that.
Welcome to the jungle, indeed.
Very good.
Oblisky?
Yeah, well, whereas Fire Ant was your first game you played and this was your second, it would have been the other way around for me, I think. I'm sure this was the first game that I would have ever played. It's just got, in the packing games, it's got that inviting title, Treasure Island. It sounds great. So, yeah, again, it's another one that my dad played more than I did. So until recently on emulation, I would have watched it more than played it, but I like the puzzle element of the pirates. The pirates come in 3 different colours, and 2 of them will throw a cutlass at you when you go near them, and the blue ones won't. So the blue ones are strategically placed around the island. So if you use too many cutlasses, you end up effectively in a no-win situation. So I quite like that puzzle element that you've got to, run up to the pirates, get them to throw a cutlass at you, but then use them in, some pirates, you can get by them without killing them. So, don't kill him. I need this cutlass for this guy further down the path. And I do love that puzzle element to it. It looks absolutely stunning. There's some great colour variation in there. And Long John Silver absolutely shit the life out of me as a 7-year-old. When we finally figured out, and got to the treasure there at the end, and then, oh, little jingle, oh shit, what's this? Run. And my dad would be, trying to go through these screens, and he wasn't really the best at remembering the path back, because effectively you've got to run back around the entire island that you've cleared near enough, and we'd go up, no, it's up, and we'd be screaming at my dad, but it was such a scary thing as a 7-year-old, that this pirate chasing you. But yeah, nothing but fond memories of this one. Let's say the first game I ever played, and one that I've absolutely adored to this day. Great choice.
I've got mixed views for this one. It is good, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to take that away from it. But because I haven't played this back in the day, I'm coming on to this one with a bit more, discerning eyes, I suppose. And I think the resource management of cutlasses, actually, cutlasses is a terrible word. It should be cutlae for plural for cutlasses, shouldn't it? So I'm going to use cutlae from now on. But it just pisses me off. You think you're doing good with that kind of resource management, and then you're convinced you've done it right. It's like, shit, I can't get any further. You're just annoyed. I don't like games. Not that I don't like this game. Sorry, I'm being a bit too strong. But I'm just not keen on games where you can screw it and you have to quit because you've got to the point of no return. That's the only bit that annoys me. Visually, I think it is maybe inspired a bit by Saberwolf, a little, just in that kind of semi-top-down, semi-side-on view, with just the way the jungle and the sands and the sand dunes all go in the game. So it's really good, but you're right, when you get to Long John Silver and he chases you, I can imagine the fear that induces in you in the game and the pursuit. When you're young and playing it, I've had that in games back in the day when I was younger, and I know exactly what you guys are trying to bring across there. It is excitement and fear and adrenaline and that kind of feeling of pursuit. And it's so hard to describe in the video game world, but you're terrified and you make all the wrong mistakes. And if you've not learned that path correctly, you've totally buggered it. You've got to get back the same way as you got there. That's ultimately it. And it is, for that, a fantastic game. So what a top choice.
Yeah, I think it's even better than the 64 version, which is odd again. Well, not that odd. You know, a few of these games are better than 64 versions. This is another one. It's nice and colourful, and I'm not surprised this was, for the guys that played this back in the day, this was one of the most popular games you had.
Yeah, they don't look like cutlasses or cutlass, do they? Look like dildos are chucking at you. They do. Check it out. Right, look at a video. Check it right this minute. It is. It's dildos. Right, dildo island.
I still see a cutlass.
I think it's just
roses. It's just me. It's always just me.
Well, I don't know about this, the Commodore 64 version, but the Spectrum version had that really unnecessary bit at the start where you had to jump over some barrels or something. It was quite tough, actually, before you actually even got to the point that the Commodore 16 version started at.
Never played it.
Yeah, it's I can remember, oh, look, Treasure Island. Oh, it's the same one. Great. Oh, I'll play it on Specky. Oh, no, it's got this really awful bit at the start that's really unnecessary. But, yeah, so, you know, I think this version's better than that as well.
Top choice. Okay, Oblisky, on to you again for your fourth game.
From the fantastic rendition on the title screen of the TV show, you may have guessed that this is Kickstart, or the full name, Kickstart Off-Road Simulator. This game is different to the other two versions, the Commodore 64 and the Atari 8-bit version. But what is it? It's a simple left to right racer where you have got to get to the end before the clock runs out or your 5 lives. It takes place across 16 levels, which increase in difficulty. But whereas the TV program, they'd be jumping over logs and going over balance beams, what Shaun Southern's done here is threw a bit of Evel Knievel in, and you can trampoline over buses and trees. So, you know, that makes it a lot more interesting. But yeah, it's a great little arcade racer, and it really does get quite hard quite quick. And, you know, whereas at the start of the game, these trampolines that you've got to hit to bounce over the buses or whatever will be quite big, by halfway through the game, they'll be half the size, and you'll have to be quite precise to get it right. And each time you lose a life, the screen progresses along quite slowly just to let your time run down a little bit quicker. But yeah, this is a very, very easy game to just pick up, have 5 minutes on, half an hour on. Yeah, I never tire of doing that. I really enjoy this one.
I think this is more akin with Daredevil Dennis on the BBC than how we remember the Kickstart games on the more popular systems. And that's not a bad thing by any means, by the way. I think, to be honest, as great as the Kickstart 2 and the things that, you know, with the track design and the things we're maybe more familiar with, is that this is more arcadey. That's probably the point I'm wanting to put across with it. You don't need to slow down for particular things. Well, you do have to slow down, but you don't crash if you're not going at a certain speed on a particular balancing object or anything like that. This is all about, it's more a motorbike platformer, isn't it?
Yeah.
A motorbike scrolling platformer, and it's wonderful. It really is. I know this well, and I always think not enough people go to this version and sing its praises. And I for those familiar with the Kickstart games they think they are familiar with, go back and play this, because it is different and it gives you that good arcade experience.
Yeah, another one I bought from John Menzies. I completely agree with you, Kingy. I'd put down it's more gamey than
exactly
the later Kickstarter 2. So Kickstart 2 was very much, what was it? Was it called Motor? Is it Cycle Cross? I can't remember what it was called on Kickstart. But yeah, it was very much akin to the TV show, very technical, trying to get across logs, trying to go at certain speeds. You mentioned the course designer, whereas this is much more gamey. It's you've got collecting balloons, avoiding lightning, and of course avoiding spinny swastikas. That's that's what you need in an 80s game. But every kid, Kickstart is the most 80s thing ever. Everyone my age was watching Kickstart on TV, and I'm sure this sold bucket loads. But this particular version, I've got a real fondness for this, just purely because it's got that mixture, more of a mixture of the arcade style of gameplay with it. And actually, going back to it, what I noticed, and you'll hate me for saying this, Kingy, is shares a lot of DNA with Moon Patrol.
It does.
Because you got you speeding up, slowing down, avoiding everything in the sky, and even the points at the end when you get to the end of the stage, it counts a bit up in the same way. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that's why I like this, and that's probably why I like Moon Patrol.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love a proper arcade version of this made on a board of this era, if you know what I mean. I would play this in Arcade Club if such a thing existed. It's great fun because you can progress. There's a bit memory. Of course there is. You need to know what's coming up next. A bit like a scroll and shoot 'em up about knowing the waveforms, what's coming next. But there is dexterity and skill at the same time. And sometimes you can do it perfectly, and other times you can completely muck it up, even though you know what's coming next. And that's what makes it more exciting, especially those bloody thunder and lightning clouds as well, which is a really nice animation, may I add, as well in the game. It's really good. I think it does not get enough praise. It really doesn't.
And again, these are budget games. So almost every game we talked about so far, we're not talking about $7.95, $8.95. They're all $1.99, some $2.99, and fantastic value for as a kid you'd just be playing this for weeks upon weeks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, I've saved one of the best to last for me. It's not really original, but I played it so much on my mate Gary's Commodore 16. I just fell in love with it because there wasn't really a good version on the Spectrum that I had at the time. And this is a Hunchback clone called Punchy. And I think most people will remember this game. So it's based around the whole Punch and Judy world, and you play the policeman, the big fat policeman. And it copies the same principles as Hunchback. You've got to get from the left to the right, and rather than ringing the bell, you've got to ring the cradle with the baby in it for whatever surreal reason. And it's brilliant. It really is. I mean, you get the fireballs to jump over, you get the ropes to swing on, the chasms to cross over, and then variations on that kind of thing where you can have ropes and fireballs, or more battlements to jump over with Punch poking his truncheon up the way rather than the guards that you're familiar with on Hunchback. So it is the same game, but it just works with the Commodore 16 colour palette, the sound effects I really like as well, the fluidity of the game, the scrolling of so it's done like watching it on a travelling stage show with puppets. And you know how you get that Victorian stage set with the waves moving, the cardboard cutouts and people are moving them in a rhythmic motion. The clouds are kind of like that above as well. It's like you're just watching a travelling puppeteer's performance of a story being narrated in the Punch and Judy world. And I think it works really well in the Hunchback theme. And I love it. I adore it. It's fantastic. So guys, what about yourself? I'll go to you first, Oblisky.
Yeah, this was a new game for me, but what a great pick. I love the arcade feel to it. I think if this was an arcade club, you'd spend a decent amount of time on this. You could imagine yourself standing there playing this and trying to beat your high score. Like I say, it looks great. It plays really well, and you just keep going. Oh, I'm gonna have another go. I'm gonna try and beat that score. I'm gonna try and beat that score. Yeah, I just loved it. This is definitely the best of your picks for me. Yeah, brilliant.
Cool. Turnbl?
Yeah, same for me. It was new to me. Lovely, bright, colourful graphics again. Really good control to it. So some of the previous games I didn't like the control scheme so much. This just nailed it. Even though I was playing on the keys, it was fine this time. Yeah, just a very good, interesting platform game, one I'm going to go back to. And I got to the third screen on this one, so getting better. And you get to the floating platform on the third screen, and the legs of Punchy, they animate backwards, like in Bod. So it's a really kind of retro, nostalgic nod to the 70s and 80s, and it just really took me back. But yeah, really enjoyed this. It's clearly a really well-made game.
Yeah, that's good. The whole canopy colours of the puppeteer stand of the canvas shows the bright whites and reds or whatever, the stripes that go down the way. It's just so visually impactful that it just stood out as one of my most favourite games. One of the first games, in fact, probably is the first game I played on the system. I was just so jealous that, wait a minute, I've got a crappy Hunchback things for the Spectrum, and you've got this. This is not fair. I want this game because it's one of with Hunchback, because I didn't get the home experience of it. It was one of the few games I always went to in the arcades because clearly I just couldn't get it. But for whatever reason, very simple game to give you in your home computers, but for whatever reason, I never experienced it. But to see it in on the Commodore there, it was fantastic. Really good.
Okay, final game for me tonight is Speed King. So this is, again, Shaun Southern. He keeps making these games. This was released in July 86, and it's a motorbike racer. So I thought I'd include this just for a bit of difference in the game styles. And again, another one I had at the time. And what I like about this, so this would have been my first ever racing game that I played, basically. To look at these days, obviously very simple. We haven't even reached the red and white edges of the tracks yet. So we've got these kind of bollards coming towards you on each side of the track for the sense of speed. It's the same color across the whole track and outside the track. So you get presented with your four courses to choose from to race around. You got Monza, Paul Ricard, Hockenheim, and Silverstone. Now, going back to an old game like this, it's very odd control choices. So it took, again, another 5 minutes wasted in my life. It took me about 3 minutes to work out how to choose a different track. So you actually have to go on the diagonal on your joystick. So you've got 4 tracks, 2 at the top, 2 at the bottom, and you actually have to move the joystick in the diagonal rather than right or left or up and down. Very odd. But once I worked that out again, different tracks. So Monza and Paul Ricard, you've got a green colour scheme for the track. Only difference is Hockenheim and Silverstone. Hockenheim is grey, very boring Germans, and Silverstone is in the classic Commodore brown. The actual gameplay, now, I thought this was going to be very basic and maybe I wouldn't like this returning to it. But what I actually found was this had an inspired control choice. So rather than like every single racing game since, we're not controlling the acceleration with the bike. We're actually controlling the gears. And what this does, so you move up to move up a gear, you move down to move down a gear. And what this means is when you're going round a corner on a bike and you're obviously leaning over, if you want to go faster, you click up and right on the joystick. If you want to go slower, because you're sort of sliding off the track, you pull back in the diagonal on the joystick. And what this means is it gives it a very visceral feeling of like you're actually riding a bike, as I'd imagine the gears would work on a bike. So that's what I got from this after playing it for quite a while. And It reminded me a bit of Night Driver. I played some of that recently on Antstream for the Atari 2600. But this control scheme with the almost being forced to use the gears, because, you know, a lot of games these days just don't care about gears, and it's all about how fast you go and accelerate. But this really made it quite a tactical game, and I just found it really playable still to this day. And I got first on Silverstone, and I'm very happy with that. And yeah, I just really enjoyed going back to it, and it was better than I thought it was going to be.
Well, this is a true story. I did own this back in the day, and I didn't know about the gears. So I would have spent, I can't even imagine how long it would have taken to race around in first gear, but I never crashed, you know. It would have been very clinical, but I also never caught up with any of the other riders or moved out of, is it 20th? For a long time. And then, purely by accident, I realised there were gears and I could play it as intended. But going back to it these days, yeah, there's a bit of playability there. Pretty good to, you know, compete against your own time or others, if anybody else was playing. I quite like the 4 different colour courses have got different colour schemes. But outside of that, I can't see me ever returning to it. Just purely based on what kind of game it is, to be honest.
For me, like you had said there, Turnbl, that it remembers you the Atari 2600 version of Night Driver, and it had a bastard child with full throttle. I don't know if any of you ever played the original arcade game of Night Driver from '76. That's superb. There's something I would love to see that in an arcade club for sure. But the Atari's interpretation of it was great in its time, and I played that a hell of a lot. So the minute I fired this up, because I've never seen this or played this on Commodore 16 or Plus 4 in my life, so straight away it felt like an Atari game immediately. But back to this recurring theme that you have a butt-naked motorcyclist with yellow hair. It's Donald Trump naked on a motorbike. That's what's cycling this. And you can look upon this now and think it very mediocre. But I think you nailed it with the description of the gearing system, that it makes the game. It would be nowhere near as fun without getting used to lowering and raising of the gears, and it makes it work. And there's a great sensation of speed, how the different gears influence the wander of the bike on the corners and that. So there is good physics there. There's no denying that in the game. Does it look dated now? Yeah, obviously it does. So you have to come back with this one with a bit of imagination, to say the least. But that's the trouble with many racing games, especially from this period. Racing games have greatly evolved, and going back to them, it's a bigger impact playing them and going, ooh, it's not as good as I quite remember. But give it a chance and give it get a feel for the handling. And I think you'll appreciate it a little bit more than just the veneered surface of the game that is if you first look at it. If you go, oh my God, it's a naked guy on something that looks like a motorbike, you're not going to get very far. But yeah, it's pretty decent. So I think it's a good choice.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting because to see this, I might be right in saying that this is the first racing game by Shaun Southern and Andrew Morris, and then Mr. Chip Software went on to become Magnetic Fields, and you got games like the Lotus games and Supercars. So yeah, it's quite interesting to see where the seeds were set for this one.
Yeah,
it's quite interesting. Like you say, Oblisky, things progress so quickly. So at this point, this came out in '86, and it is. You look at it; it's very primitive. It controls really well, but to see then how quickly games evolved. Next year you probably had Pit Stop 2, which is a step up. You then had within 3 years you had Lotus coming out on the Amiga, and you just had that progression. So where we've looked at all of these platform games today, those platform mechanics were a step along. They'd progressed further than this type of game had at this point. But it's really interesting seeing this, but also just going back to the control scheme, it's really interesting just with playing with these gears, because the games don't really do it these days. It's all about acceleration and speed.
Yeah.
But it really makes the game work, especially with the bike. So I'd really recommend even some bikers out there, they'll probably like just the sensation
naked
of it.
bikers out there.
Naked Donald Trump bikers, yeah. There's your episode title. But yeah, I think it's a great game. And then obviously within, 8 years after this, we had Ridge Racer in the arcades. Just to see that progression in this one genre that quickly is amazing.
Yeah, I think that's why Drisky and I covered the evolution of racers, simply because of that. It's one of the more noticeable games that rapidly, even within its own generation, evolves, if you see what I mean, and gives you, like you alluded to there, Turnbl, about a year on and the next year on. So, oh my God, even within the same system, the games take a paradigm shift in aesthetics and handling and physics and go, wow, it's a rapidly increased genre game that it's good to go back to the basics and the rudimentary origins of it and have a go at these ones. Okay, let's get on to your final game, mate.
Right, so my final game was a late entry because I wasn't sure whether to put in this or whether to put in Tutti Frutti. And in the end, I went with this. And I'm so glad I did, because I had the most amount of fun recording the video for this and playing it coming up to the episode. The game is Megabolts by Stuart Cross, released on Mastertronic. And what is it? It is a top-down maze shooter across 64 levels. It's an 8x8 grid. And in each one of these screens, because it's a flick screen game, each one of these screens, there's so much going on. You've got the enemy craft, which I think there's about 5 or 6 of. And ultimately, you have to destroy each of those enemy craft across all 64 screens. And to do that, you've either got to shoot them, but only from the side or the back, or you've got to crush them with the scenery, which you can do by going up to it and just firing. But if you're touching it, it'll push it forward and you can crush them as they go by. But at the same time, there is something flying around the screen, like a little yellow thing flying around the screen. You can't kill that. It can kill you. But you can't kill that. You can deflect it away. If you shoot it enough, it'll go another way. You have got a fuel that's constantly ticking down. So you've got to keep your eye out for something that comes on the screen now and again that gives you a little bit of fuel back. That does its best to stay out of your way. So that's quite frustrating. And then every now and again, one of the enemies will drop a bomb. If you shoot that takes a life away from you. What you have to do before it counts down to 0 is go and touch it, and it gives you a little bit of a score and takes it away. So each screen, there is masses going on. So you clear one screen, you go over to another one, and you repeat it. Every screen has got a completely different pattern, so it's nicely varied there. And to keep you updated where you haven't cleared, there is a little thing at the top that, constantly ticks away saying A2, H7, G6, and they're the grid squares that you haven't yet cleared. So you know where to head. It's just such a fun game, and it's chaotic. There's loads going on. And like I said, I just have the most amount of fun with this one.
Yeah, I really like this one. Full screen maze game. I really like the smaller style of the graphics, that you can see everything on the screen at once. The precision, the detail going on. It's really well designed graphics as well. So to be that small and know who you are and what the enemy is and where you need to go, it takes a lot of design expertise. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. I'm going to go back to this. I liked it a lot better than like your bigger graphic ones like Tom Thumb. So yeah, it felt quite like a modern game as well. It had that snappiness to it. So yeah, really like this.
Yeah, I think you're right that, you get the modern games that just try to capture the old aesthetic. and no feel of games. It could easily have been a game downloading itch or anything like that. That it has such fluid gameplay that it doesn't feel dated at all playing it. Yeah, it's kind of maze shooter meets Pengo, because you can push the blocks to crush the baddies in the game, and it has an exploration feel to it, because you just don't know what the next screen's going to look like, but you're compelled by completing each and every screen in the game. No slowdown either. You can get really busy. Yeah, people might not like the graphics too much, but I like it almost looks like it's written in BASIC, and it's using UDG sprites in the game. But that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. I think that's an absolute positive. It shows you that it's not all about visual flair or anything. It's purely about gameplay. And this game absolutely has this. It's nailed it. And I was on this for ages playing it. I thought this was fantastic. Never heard it in my life before, by the way. So thank you for bringing it under my radar, Oblisky. It's superb. Absolutely superb, and I urge any of the listeners of the show that is even remotely interested in trying some of these games out to fire this one up and give it a try.
Yeah, I felt like it was a bit of a left field choice, but like I said, I'm so glad I stuck it in there. On one of the playthroughs, I did actually, well, I thought I'd finished it. I did clear the 64 screens. I'm not sure you'll see that on the video because that might be cut down to match,
all 3 minutes. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. So, but it was around half an hour. But something that I learned, it may have been today or yesterday, by doing a little bit of research. It turns out, because when you clear them 64 screens, it basically says, "Oh, now for a tougher challenge." I don't know what that actually means, but you have to do the same again. I did find out to truly complete it, you have to do all 64 screens 32 times.
What?
Yep. That's the true ending.
That's my. Well, I wonder if anybody has ever seen a true ending, if that's the case.
Good luck with that.
I mean, fair enough with save states and such like on emulators, like, I'll go through it each time, but in one sitting, come on.
Incredible. This was one of them games. The one time I remember as a kid getting to, completing all 64 screens, you're going around and it gets to the point where most screens are empty and you're trying to find your way to get to this last grid square or whatever. And I can remember, I think it was like Sunday lunchtime, so my mum's shouting us for dinner. I'm playing this, my dad's watching. It's like, we can't turn it off now. We're so far. We've got one screen left to go, and you're still trying to find it. And it got in trouble a little bit for that one, but it was worth it for that complete.
Excellent choice, mate. Excellent choice. Okay. So, as we mentioned earlier, there were some +4 games only. We covered one being Treasure Island, but there are a few more that we'd just like to briefly cover. We're not going to get into them in much depth. So, it was Turnbl that listed them. So, I'll give it to you, mate, to go into them and mention what these games are.
Yeah, okay. So, first one I want to talk about is Mercenary. Now, obviously, this was on other systems, but this specific +4 version was, again, just so impressive. Now, this is one of the first 3D games we've mentioned today, and the wireframe graphics on this processor, again, compared to the C64, very impressive for the time. Mid-80s, pretty quick, and it's just such an interesting game. So you start in space, so it looks like Elite at the start. Then your ship crashes on a planet, and you have to then venture around this planet. You initially find a new ship to move around in called the Dart, and then what it is effectively, rather than Elite on a planet, it's more like an adventure game on a planet. So you're moving around this wireframe 3D world. You're going into buildings, down elevators, finding items. And it's got that exploratory aspect to it, which must have blown people's mind at the time. So I didn't play this at the time. My first experience of this was on the Amiga a little bit later. But even then, when I played it on the Amiga, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And it was almost like a tech demo. I wasn't that interested in it. Didn't know what I was doing. Went and played Rainbow Islands or whatever. So what's really interesting about it's so technically impressive for this time on this machine. I'm definitely going to go back to it. It plays really well. And yeah, I'd recommend anybody, even just as a look at 3D, a 3D world, should look at this game on this machine, because it's basically, I believe it's the first open 3D world game ever. Not necessarily on this machine, but on all the platforms. And if you think every single game we're playing today on modern platforms, all these 3D games, this is pretty much where it started. It's just very impressive.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if that statement would hold true or not. It may. I'm just trying to think back to scratch my mind if there was other 3D environments. I would argue, in terms of free roaming, that Not in 3D, released on the ZX Spectrum a few years earlier, albeit a reimagining of Worm, it's completely in 3D. It's incredible. As you have the ability to free roam and move about and not crash into the trail that you've left behind you. I would maybe argue that predates that, but that's a technicality, you know what I mean? But this was an incredible game back in the day. Loved it. And to see this version on the Commodore there was, wow, it runs at a great pace. I was impressed, I will say. The intro, although you can't skip, I love the whole flying up to the planet. Okay, but what I used to do, I've done this years ago, you might not be as familiar. So you got the planet, it's not in wireframe, the planet, it's just a 2D sprite that gets bigger and bigger towards the screen of the spacecraft because you've run out of fuel or whatever and you're in gravity for the planet. As I've edited that with Bugaboo the Flea because it has exactly the same intro. So it's good to fuck up people online on YouTube and say you're recording Mercenary, okay, and put the intro for Mercenary, and once you crash into the planet, Bugaboo the Flea happens, and do vice versa, just to screw up AI and its learning in life, if you know what I mean. It doesn't understand what you've done. But yeah, brilliant game. I don't know if you've had experience of this prior, Oblisky, played the game in the past, or...
No, I didn't know about it until a couple of days ago when it was mentioned, but I did get it running. I thought that intro was really good. There's a certain amount of, it's quite theatrical, isn't it? The way you crash and whatnot. And I had a little roam around, but, playing it on emulation and not sure of keys, I think I didn't really get to do anything. So I thought, right, what I'll do, I'll go and watch a video of it instead. So, I've not really got too much to add other than what you guys have said, but it almost looks like a very basic Hunter for, Amiga and Atari ST. I played it mostly on Atari ST. It kind of reminded me of that, just that free roaming and, you can get in a craft and get around and stuff. But yeah, very impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good shout, Oblisky. So Hunter was the first game where I knew what I was doing in a 3D world. So it's definitely got the precursor to that. Yeah.
Right. So what the next game would be? Icicle Works.
Yeah. Well, let's go for Icicle Works. So another +4 exclusive. Again, another packing game. So have we mentioned 4 packing games now? I think at least. So this is basically a Boulder Dash Repton clone. This time set in a Christmas snowball world. So your snowballs are your boulders. You need to pick up presents to get through the levels. Avoid the various Christmas-themed polar bears and penguins from the various poles on the planet. 13 levels here. And as you get your presents within the level, again, a little bit like Exorcist, it fills in that bottom right of the screen with a picture with a classic Christmas present, like some cubes with numbers on, or
a lump of fucking coal.
All those old presents. So yeah, really nicely done game. I played it quite a bit in the 80s. Plays really well these days as well. I think a few of the guys played it last Christmas and got on well with it. The music isn't overly Christmassy. Sounds like a weird mix of Middle Eastern and classical. But yeah, decent game. And the actual original programmer, Doug Turner.
Dogtanian?
Dogtanian, yeah. Doug Turner. He wrote a follow-up to this in 2020 called The Pit. And I think he'd written a new game for the first time in many, many years. So, and that was on the +4 also. So it's worth checking that out as well. So yeah, really good game. Enjoyed it.
Cool. I'll just be brief that, I think it's a wonderful game. It's got the same feel as Boulder Dash, maybe a little more washed out, given it the wintry theme in that, it's a bit harder to see things on the screen. I do like that in some of the levels, even though there's loads of the parcels to collect under the soil, is that if it's a small toy, then they'll turn to, the rest of the Christmas boxes turn into bonuses, and it's a case of risk and reward. Dare you collect other boxes before the time runs out so you can get out the exit? I thought that was a nice touch, but really like it. It's a good game.
Yeah, as a packing tile, this is one we played quite a lot. We did like a Boulder Dash type game back in the day, and I think it does it quite well, even though it is very, very difficult. But one of the good things is you've got a static first level, but then once you've made your toy, collected your presents, made your toy, you can head off in different directions. So you don't have to have the same experience every time. And if you know that the screen to the right is a bit of a nightmare, head left and pick that one and see if you can, get a bit further going that way instead. So I do like that about it. Yeah, so it's a great game.
Excellent. And the final one, Turnbl?
Yeah, so final +4 specific game we'd like to mention is a flight combat simulator called Ace. So this came out in 86, programmed by Ian Martin. Again, like Mercenary, another very impressive 3D game on the +4. It's a classic flight simulator in terms of the later ones you see on the Amiga, and the 64 and Amiga, like Falcon, F-19, those types of games. So it's fully featured. You start choosing your mission. You can choose an air mission, ground, naval, or a mixed mission. You start on the runway, like all other flight simulators, increase your thrust, take off, and you've got a nice 3D representation of the world. Obviously, it's not true 3D. Your ground is pretty much level, but you have these mountains shown graphically in vectors, and you also have some trees on distance. So again, for the time, it was pretty impressive for what it was doing on this machine. You can have dogfights, you can have assaults on tanks on the ground. There's naval assaults, there's refueling. And for that amount of game to fit into the +4 was just, again, pretty impressive for me. It's worth checking out, again, just from a technicality point of view. And the best thing about this, again, I may be wrong, but as far as I know, this is the first known game, not this version, but in general, with digitized speech. So you get various call outs during your mission, something like missile warning, which sounds like or low altitude. But
Ghostbusters predated that with the digitized speech.
Do you think?
Yeah, this is 86.
No, but I think this came out on other systems earlier. So I think this game had the first digitized speech, but I may be proven wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't without looking. Maybe it does. But actually, I thought the speech was really good. Yeah, really, really good. It's never going to be the levels of, say, Starboard with missile launched. But no, I thought it was a exhilarating, fast-paced game. Really good graphics. lots to do. You know, I like that thing where you can look in the map and see where the enemy targets are, head towards them. The dogfights can happen or ground attacks, stuff like that. It is a renowned game, and I think, again, like racing games, you go back to flight sims and go back, you have to go back with a bit of your imagination again. And if you come with that and a bit more of an open mind, then you'll still get an enjoyable game. I think it is really good, and it runs at a fantastic speed, so really good.
Yeah, much like Mercenary, this is one that I had a bit of a go at it, but you can tell by the instructions that there's quite a few keys involved here. For example, first go, or what does this do? Ejected on the runway. That was my first go. That's first wave dying. And then when I did finally take off, I then crashed because I'd not raised my. They don't call them wheel. Well, I guess it is the wheels, but you've got to get them up and. Yeah, undercarriage, yeah. Before you get to a certain speed. So that was my second death. And I could see with the time that I had, I wasn't going to learn all these different keys and everything. So again, I went back to a video and watched it on there. But like you say, it's very impressive when they go, you can go to a map and have a look where your enemy targets are, head off over to those dogfights and, like I say, ground targets. It's for the time and platform, it's very impressive indeed.
Right, I'm conscious the episode's getting rather long. It's turning out one of these epic ones, chaps. Thanks very much. An editing nightmare. So any quick honourable mentions that we haven't mentioned already that need to be shouted out before we end the episode?
Not in terms of games. I just want to mention something that I used to do on the Plus 4. So alongside the packing games, the 10 packing games, you had these ASCII characters on the key set on the keyboard. And obviously, once I played all the games, that's what I do. What I then do is go and draw a picture of a leaderboard style golf hole, 3D, on the screen using ASCII art. So using all the triangles, the rectangles, everything, different colors, create these lovely holes because we didn't have leaderboard at that time on the Plus 4. And that's how I spend my time. So that was my first kind of foray into art and making creativity and making things and eventually becoming a computer programmer.
Awesome. So you never actually drew a cock and balls then? You just done that?
No, I drew leaderboard courses. Why would I draw a cock and balls? That's ridiculous.
Why wouldn't you?
What about yourself, Oblisky? Any final thoughts?
I think I'll give a shout out to Tutti Frutti, seeing it it didn't make the cut in the end. Tutti Frutti is a Mr. Do clone, again by Shaun Southern. Really was amazing on this platform. And again, here it's a brilliant game. It's colourful. If you like Mr. Do, you're sure to love it. There is a little bit of variation in the levels. Rather than just keep collecting the fruit, there's certain levels where you have to kill every enemy. So there's a little bit of variation in there. But anybody who likes a game of Mr. Do in the arcade should really check out Tutti Frutti.
Awesome.
And I just think, Kingy, going back to these games, it's been quite eye-opening because I know in sort of the scene it's a little bit of a joke machine, not normally mentioned. And the thing is, they are actually really good games, and there's some, especially the graphics, really colourful graphics, nice fast 3D games. And I think everyone that listens and on the Discord channel would have an absolute blast playing some of these games. They'll be right up their street. And I think sometimes this platform just gets a little bit ignored, or a little bit, people think they know what they think about it and that's it. But it's really worth playing these games, especially the ones that we've talked about that are slightly different to the other platforms. Really, really worthwhile. And I had a really good time playing these.
Excellent. Yeah, and that's the whole point of this particular continuing series, is to shine a light on these computers. There's every single one of these home computers that came out in the 80s. They all have excellent games, and that's why I'm not into slagging them off and taking the piss beyond the whole playground banter is that these games were precious to these people. Look how you guys have spoken with nostalgia and fond memories of all of these games, and I can't take that away from you. And how dare I insult that, or how dare anyone insult that? You had fun. You got into gaming. Like you said, Turnbl, you've become a computer programmer because of the system. Hats off to it. It was your first foray into computing, and brilliant. Who are we to deny that? So anyway, thank you, chaps, for joining me. I could not have done this episode without you. I think we've covered some absolutely fantastic games and some other discussions around it. And I really appreciate your time. I know it's been a long one, but I know some of the listeners love the long episodes. And I hope you inspires people just to, even like I said, you don't need to put the emulator on, you don't need to get real hardware. You can go to the website at Plus4 World, which is in the show notes, and you can just play it in your browser, even if you just want a couple of minutes feel for some of the games that we're discussing here. I really urge you to give it a try. So thank you again for listening, gents. Thank you very much for joining me in this epic episode, and we'll all see you in the next episode, and we'll equally see you in a future 8-Bit Underdogs episode. So until then, see you later. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Cheers.